right, so welcome back to Marnie's Marketing Mondays, and we're going to be talking about split testing today. And I just kind of have a really loose outline for talking about how I do this, and then if y'all want to maybe talk about something you're promoting, and we might look at ways to split test. If we were to create an ad for it, we might take something that you're doing and create an ad and then talk about how you might split test different things with that. So just let me go to the share screen here. Okay. So the first thing that I usually start with is split testing images. Now this is in the context of, say, maybe a Facebook ad, but it could also be like your opt-in page that you're sending people to, or maybe you're using Twitter or you're using LinkedIn or whatever. You might try different images. And usually I'll start with, like if I'm doing a Facebook ad, a $5 a day budget is probably pretty standard for a test run. I'll split test a couple images, maybe 3, but I don't do much more than 3 if you've got $5 budget, because it starts to, just spreads it out so much that it take a while to get some good results and figure out. One thing that I like to keep in mind is, back in college I took statistics class, and they used to say that, you need at least 60 of something to be, I think is it 85 or 90% accuracy? If you have at least 60, you can kind of get an accuracy level. If you have 90, you're up more toward the 90 to 95% accuracy level. So the more numbers you have, the more accurate it is. So in context of advertising, showing an ad to 60 people is probably not going to show a whole lot of data. That's not going to do much. But let's say you've sent 60 people through to your website and looked at your opt-in page. Well, that's giving you some information, but like 90 to 100 people, if you've got a good 100 people that have hit the page and you're not seeing any signups yet or anything, if you're giving away something free, then something is wrong with that opt-in page, most likely. So you have to kind of bear in mind that you want to get the numbers up, and the more numbers you send there, the more accurate your data is. So let's say that and what you do is you start with one thing at a time. You don't change multiple things. Like you don't split test an image and a title and some text against another image and a different title and maybe the same text. You just pick one thing to make difference. So what I'll usually take is 2 to 3 ads that have the exact same headlines, exact same title, everything, and change the images on them. And I make them all go to the same opt-in page, because if you've got one of them going to one opt-in and one of them going to another opt-in, well, now you're muddying your data. You can't tell. You only change one thing at a time, just gradually, like little micro changes. Now, if you have a decent budget, let's say you're willing to spend $50 to $100 a day to split test something, you could split test all these different variations, like maybe the same ad with 3 different images, then another ad that's the same with the same 3 images, but just the title's different, or another one where it's one of the same titles, the same 3 images, but 3 different body of text. But I generally don't do that because I'm trying to narrow down, so I'll just start with one thing, get the best image, and then once I got a good image, then I'll take that same image and maybe test 2 or 3 headlines. So the picture's the same, but there's a different headline on 2 to 3 different ads, and then the body of the ad is the same, And then once you got a headline that's good and an image that's good, then you might say, okay, I'm going to change up the top copy. Now I'm going to have the same winning headline, the same winning image, but I'm going to change up the text at the top. Or maybe The next thing you might decide you want to do is, hey, I'm good with the ad. It's in the range I want to pay. I'm fine. I don't need to keep tweaking that, but I want to get more people signing up. Let's say I got 300 people visited my site and only 10 of them signed up, Now, okay, we got the people coming. Why aren't they signing up? So you might split test the actual opt-in page and take part of the people and send them over to one opt-in page and part of them over to a different one. I was thinking there's another thing that you could split test, and it's slipped my mind. Okay. Anyway, so once they get to the opt-in page, you only want one thing different on those as well. Okay. So maybe the headline is different. One opt-in page has everything the same but the headline, and the other one everything the same. They're identical, but the only thing different is the headline. Or maybe where you've positioned the sign-up box. I mean, it's just meticulously testing one little thing at a time, and you want to keep records of it. The nice thing about Facebook is that generally, if you well mark your ads and you don't go back and edit the ads, you don't want to edit an ad ever. Like, you just start with a new ad. Okay, so if you're going to change one thing, don't go back and edit an existing ad, because now you've muddied your details and you can't tell when you made that change or whatever. And so you want to start with a fresh ad, just change one little thing, and then you have the record keeping of Facebook. At least you can look back on and say, okay, and I'll usually do something like I'll title my ads with something like a name for the image and what I've done different in it, like this headline or that body change or whatever, so that I can quickly look and sort, oh, hey, this one's doing the best. I see now quickly that this one's getting the best click-through rates or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to stop there because I'm kind of rattling on cerebrally about this, but do you have any questions about what I was talking about, or was that like Charlie Brown's mother? Wah, 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 wah.
Well, this isn't exactly rocket science, but I found out last week that the link to my opt-in was broken. And I have not been looking at how many people have been going to the site or anything really. So since all of this has been put up when my book was launched and went to #1 bestseller, that was like November 28th. And I'm embarrassed to say that I haven't checked anything out. But that's something else to throw out. If somebody's not converting, does the link work?
That would help. Yeah, that would really definitely help. You want to do that before you run any kind of ad campaign. Definitely check your links and stuff. Yeah.
Well, when I was talking to my daughter about it, she indicated that she thought in November the link did work. And I was meticulous. I mean, you know how detailed I am. So in my mind, I made sure that the link did work. However, there could have been a different step that I was not involved in, that I was unable to check the link. Because that was in the back of my mind, because you don't want any of your people to go and not be able to download what you've offered them. But
yeah, so yeah, if you've got multiple people working on your site or something, you definitely want to double check things, I guess, every once in a while. Another thing that you could split test would be the audiences themselves. For example, I have an ad running. I have a whole bunch of split test ads that I'm running for a client right now. And we have two main audiences we're running to. And the ad that is, or the image that is doing really well with one audience is not doing as well for the other audience. It's like the second best one, and there's one that's not doing well for the audience that original image is doing great for. That's not doing well at all for that other audience. So you might look at trying different groupings of people as well. Some of them might respond to one image or one headline where they won't respond to another. So you can't blanketly say, hey, I found the winning graphic, I found the winning headline and everything. It may not translate over to a different audience at all. So like when you're using Facebook, each audience that you're going to test, you're starting over with a new minimum spend per day. So if Facebook says you got to spend $5 a day, you might have to spend $5 on one audience and $5 on another one. Although lately they're starting to let us spend less. You can set a budget that's less than a $5 a day. And if that's the case, you could maybe run little, micro tests of like $2 on this audience, $2 on that one, and $1 on this other one. If you had a $5 budget, you might be able to spread it out with the audiences. You never know till you get in there and start creating the ads. So you want to keep good records of when you changed things. And if you go changing even so much as how much you spent per day, let's say you say, hey, this is working great. I'm spending $5. I want to spend $8 a day. And you change it. Well, Facebook may have to completely re-optimize for the amount that you're spending. It could totally change your results. They might give you a better deal, or they might not. They may give you a worse deal per result if you spend more. So you need to make a note of every little change that you make, so you can say, oh, wait a minute, we did that with a client last week. She's like, oh, this is great. Let's just inch this up from $10 to $13 a day. And then we changed one other little thing, and her results just tanked. She's like, what happened? She was paying more per click, and her conversion rates went down. And and so if you change multiple things, then you don't know, okay, which of those two things did we do that messed that up? Was it increasing the spend, or that other little tweak that we made? So you want to be really careful. And maybe
what does it look? Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Caroline.
What does that look like for you? How do you keep track? Like, do you have a spreadsheet? What do you do to keep track of every little change?
Yeah, you can put it in a spreadsheet of what you did on what date, and then what kind of results you were getting, what you were paying per click, what you were paying per, maybe per result. I have different clients who have different spreadsheets, and they want the stuff stuck in their spreadsheet. So one of them has it down to, she's probably got one of the better spreadsheets where it's got how much she spends per click, how many sales she makes, how many, how much she's paying to get a sale, what her net profit was, all of that she just tracks it week by week.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Marnie, you're saying that when you change the amount that the minimum spending, then you don't have control over what Facebook does with it. I mean, you tell them where you want it to go, but they could pick up a different demographics. Is that what you're saying?
Well, their audience should be the audience you selected. If you haven't changed the audience, that'll be the same. But there's some kind of algorithm they've got running where they optimize it for whatever you're spending. And then if you go changing it, you'll notice that it'll say next to the ad, it'll say active, and then in parentheses, it'll say learning. So it goes into this relearning mode, And you could spend another week or so of running ads that maybe weren't as effective as what you had before, because Facebook thinks, oh, they made a change, I have to relearn all over again. And then it may not get you the results that you were getting before. So you might be better off just creating a new ad. And you could use the same, you can duplicate the ad post. It's a little tricky to do it, but you can pull the ID off of an ad that's doing really well and has to say, you got one that's got lots of comments, lots of likes, all that kind of stuff on it. And you like the juice you got going on that thing, but you don't want to mess up your stats. So you could create a new ad and then go grab that ID associated with that post and stick it on the new ad. And that shouldn't mess you up, because it's looking at it as a new ad, even though it's running some existing copy. I don't believe that will hurt you as bad as going in and adjusting something that's already existing sometimes.
Okay, so you're saying you put up an ad and you want to do split test, so you put up an ad and see how it does, and then you want to change something. So you're saying rather than change something on that ad, duplicate the ad and then change one thing.
Well, yeah, duplicate the ad, but don't go get that post and change anything unless you're going to run it identically, like to a new audience. You're not going to touch the title, any of the guts of the ad. Don't copy the literal ID of an existing one that you like that's running. Just use the duplicate. The duplicate function will create a whole new ID and create a new ad that looks like the other one, and then you can tweak it. But what I'm talking about is, let's say you've got an ad that's just perfect. It's just running great, and you want to try it with a new audience or maybe with a different amount. You're going to triple what you're spending on it. Then you could go get the post ID off of it, because you're not changing the actual copy itself. You're just changing who it's running to or how much. And then you could run a test off of that so that it doesn't mess up what you got going maybe on another ad you're running that's doing well.
So how would you consider an ad perfect?
Perfect. Well, if you know that it's coming in at the budget you want, like you're getting a really low click-through price. Let's say you've got an ad that's giving you a click-through of 15 cents per click. Man, you're doing great. Okay, it's coming over really nicely. You've got it down to about as cheap as you're going to get it. 10-15 cents is fantastic. Okay, so you've got that. Now you want to maybe test, okay, they're coming through, are they signing up? Are they so if they're not signing up, then you need to probably split test the opt-in page that you're leading it to. There's something amiss there. So you could copy the ad, use the duplicate, and then change the URL and try sending it to another opt-in page, and so that you're split testing the two.
Okay, so leave the existing ad as it is and duplicate it and send it to another opt-in page that has had only a tiny change. Make another opt-in page, but just a little bitty difference.
Yeah, right.
Just a little bitty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's meticulous and time-consuming. And you can see where the budget could get, you could be spending a lot of money just to do the testing. So you want to weigh against the speed of, let's just get something good going, versus, okay, I've got to test and test. And it doesn't hurt to keep running little tests. Once you do have something, hey, this one's good, let's let it run. Now let's just try something else over here and see what happens with it. And sometimes let's say you found one that's doing really well, it's converting, you're making sales. I would be tempted, instead of let me see if I can explain this. When you have an ad set, which is an audience that's a good one, and you've got an ad in there that's a good one, or even if it's a bad one, okay, and you put another ad in that ad set being the audience, Facebook's going to run those two against each other, and it's going to decide in its own mind how much to show either one of them. And sometimes it's wrong, and it'll show the one that cost you more money. So you have to kind of watch it. Or if they've got one that they really like that they've optimized, they'll hardly give any attention to this new ad that you created. They just won't hardly give it the time of day. Okay, you can't even hardly get them to show it to even get a decent test. So you might be better off not sticking it within that ad set. You might be better off creating a new ad set that even looks identical to the other one. If you love that ad set, run it, and then run another ad within it that looks like the other one. So I usually test within the ad set when I'm still trying to figure out, okay, what's good, or we found something good. But if you're going to go, once you got something really good, just don't mess with it and make a copy and then test. Then you can split test a few under this duplicate thing. It's just kind of temperamental in my experience. Joanne, you've run ads enough to, would you agree with me on that? Have you seen stuff do that?
Yeah, and I'm just happy just to let you do that, Marnie, because that's just too much for me to figure out.
So, yeah, it's, anyway. Any other
the hard part, I think, is to turn, like, you might get a lot of opt-ins, but then do you get sales, and how are you, that's the hard part to figure out, I think. Is it actually, because you could get all these opt-ins and get no sales, and then you think you're doing good and you're spending this money on advertising and you're not making any money from it. So
yeah, and you don't know that for a while because you've got your email follow-up system. And is it the sales page that you're sending to them that's not working, or is it that your email follow-up is not nurturing them properly? So you've got that same kind of tweaking that's got to go on beyond the ad, and most people never even think about that, you know. Yeah, they usually they get to that point, and then if it doesn't work, then they just say, forget it, you know, I'm not going to do it. But the same kind of tweaking needs to be done all the way through.
That's why I need you, Marnie.
Yes, let's just go ahead and do some testimonials while we're here. Joanne, would you tell us what is the best, how does Marnie Pearson, are you Marnie Pearson now?
For another week and 6 days.
Okay, so let's just use Marnie. Joanne, why don't you tell us what Marnie does for you that helps you in your business and helps you in your life?
Well, first of all, I give her fuel, but she does the ad copy, and then she split tests it with different pictures, different images, and sometimes with different ad copy also, and then goes over the statistics, and we figure out which ad is selling, or which ad is getting results. And then we figure out actually she figures which ad is selling, you know, and there's a whole bunch of things. There's a whole bunch of things that Marnie does.
Well, someone that she does well.
Oh yeah. Well, let's put it this way. I don't have the bandwidth to do it, and I don't understand it as well as she does. So I'm just, happy to have her do it for me. I could do it, but I'm not even going to know if I'm getting results.
And I'm not on the payroll, by the way. I want to let you know that. I'm just being the motivator today. The motivational moderator today.
Thank you, Joanne and Donna. Yes.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Appreciate the plug.
How do we, as part of your tribe and your customers and your friends, how do we help you, Marnie?
I guess you can let people know what I do. If you know somebody who's trying to run an ad, let them know. Yeah. And I'm excited because Dave does copy. So we're going to be adding the whole, the stuff with the opt-in pages and the sales copy and all of that end of it. So we'll have a more robust service than just the ad side of it. So if you need that help with the email follow-ups and all of that stuff, we're going to be doing that together. So that's kind of cool. So
nice.
We just picked up our first client on that, so we're official. So we'll see. Okay. Any other questions on that? Let me make sure.
Well, I'll give you an example of why you need to do small tweaks on split testing. The first split testing that I did using, I guess, Google Analytics with when you're doing it on 2 pages on your website, and you think you're testing this opt-in against that opt-in, that goes to the same link and it rotates.
Mm-hmm.
However, they were so different. It was so confusing. I had no idea what I was doing, and it was a waste of time for me because, well, I guess I learned that you have to change little things. I never followed through with it, by the way. I just said, oh, screw that. That's just too difficult, too hard to do. I'm not going to
That's what most people do.
Do they? Yeah.
That's what most people do. And
so what is the benefit of split testing?
It helps you pinpoint what is working and what's not working, so you don't waste money on something that's just not working. You think it's working and it's not, or maybe you're not using the very best thing. One thing that I really learned when I had Ideal Marketers is we would run advertisements, Google ads on Ideal Marketers, and we had about 10 million page views a month. And so I would go in and I would do things just like change the position of where the Google ads were. One time I doubled my ad revenue just by shifting where the boxes were on the page, and when I say double, I was already making, probably $4,000 a month in ad revenue. So it jumped it to like 8, just to shift where it was on the page. So those just tiny little micro movements. And had I not been paying attention, I might have thought, well, what did I do? If I'd have changed a whole bunch of things at once, I'd been like, what did I do? Okay, now, and then you come back and you change it again and, oh, it went away. What did I do? So there's just so much that you can gain by tiny little micro movements, and or lose if you don't pay attention to what you're doing.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because as an illustration of how that works, I just had a forehead slap there. When someone is working on their poker game, they think that they'll say, well, what do I need to do? I've got all these things wrong with them. And I say, oh, halt. The next time out, let's work on one thing. Because when they try to change everything at once, they get exhausted and they don't know what's going right. So, gosh, I guess I've been split testing all along. I just didn't know what to call it. That's a great illustration of it.
Yeah, that is. That's a good one. Yeah. One thing that I was going to talk about too is with headlines. I read Ogilvy on advertising years ago. He was the big guy on advertising and the book on it. And he was talking about if you can't test a lot, just test the headline, change it, And so there's that website that I think I've shown y'all before, Headline Analyzer. And I created a pretty link for it just because I never can remember what it is. So it's just marniepearson.com/headlines. And I'm not an affiliate or anything. It's just, I just made a pretty link so that I could remember where it is. And let me see if I've got it open still.
I use that all the time, Marnie.
Do you? Yeah.
I love that. Yeah. For blog posts and for email
Yeah.
subject lines.
Can I tell you what causes me a problem with headline analyzer?
Sure.
I get into that analyzing do loop so long. It becomes anal. I mean, we're talking about, I keep doing, and I go, well, let's try that again. I mean, and I just stop doing that. So maybe that's not a good idea.
Yeah, it's easy to get into overanalyzation, I think, too. One thing that kind of flies in the face of the headline analyzer, but you might split test it. This is a good example.
Okay.
My friend Karen Thaxton, she's really sharp on copy. Okay, so she helps people with copy and copywriting. And she was talking about 3 intriguing words that you can use in your headlines. So like on emails, and I tried one today using this concept. She says to use this or it or here in place of, instead of telling them the answer in the headline, you allude to it, and it creates mystique and mystery about, okay, what is this thing? So like today I sent an email out, was this will turn your website into a sales generating machine. So then you're like, well, what is it? What's this? I want to know what that is. Where if I had said, you know, blogging more will turn your website into a sales generating machine, you just told them the answer, you know, so why do I don't want to learn about blogging. I already know about that. And they'll just go on, you know. So that's an example of this. Or it might be, here's a simple trick for shifting into a good mood in 17 seconds or less. Or Donna, you could probably come up with better, but like, here's a simple trick for, you know, I was trying to come up with a mind shifting one there for you, you know.
Thank you.
And then it won't require dredging up the past like traditional therapy will. So what's it? You know, Simply Healed or whatever, you know, or energy therapy or whatever you want to. So try substituting here's it or this for the name of whatever your solution is or whatever you're talking about. Substitute that in your headlines, like your email headlines, or try it with Facebook ads. That doesn't score well on that headline analyzer because they seem to be really big on it, numbers or how to. They're wanting to see that, or you just can't get the weight up on it. But I think it'd be worth testing this. You could try these 3 things will do X, Y, Z, and then you know. So that was just a little thing I wanted to pass on that I thought was pretty good that I learned this week from Karen. Let me stop that.
Thank you. That was very helpful.
Good. All right. Any other questions or comments on this subject before we wrap up this subject? Okay. All right. One thing I wanted all of y'all to know, I've got this coupon code going right now. You can use Bestie, BESTIE, and you can save 20% almost anything I got on my website as far as like my programs that are out there, and my Simply Healed sessions and stuff like that. I thought I need to be rewarding my people that are always buying from me, so I created that code just for my besties. So and if you want, you could give it to a friend. I'm going to let you share it. So like if you're a friend of a bestie, you can use it, you know. So I mean, I don't really want to blast it all over social media, but like if you got a friend who needs a Simply Healed session, you're like, you need to use Marnie, and here I got a code that's just because I'm one of her best customers. You see what I'm saying? That kind of thing. So
Marnie, there's something I got to tell you.
Yeah.
And, we're all friends here, so
you'll let me go off the record, or
yeah.